So first things first, you can navigate to the Deepvue leader screen. This is basically a wide screen that looks for the strongest stocks based on momentum, growth, kind of can slim metrics. And I kind of always say this, if you're only going to use one screen in Deepvue and kind of want to save time and just go through, one list of stocks, this is a great screen to start with. And it's kind of how I do my routine every single day. We've got this Ameet Rai 62.5 RS days screen. And basically what this is based on a study that Rai did, stocks that exhibit RS on 62.5% of the time during corrections often have a big chance of being established leaders going forward. And if you go through here, you see a lot of names that we've already flagged. So you start to see, similarities and common stocks between these different screens and different ways to look for relative strength. And those are clues to really focus on those names and keep a close eye on them. Lastly, we've got the 52-week highs list. This basically is a way to look for stocks that are making new highs during this environment. And if you're able to make a new high when the market is well off highs, that is a sign of relative strength. You always want to be tracking these stocks that are acting the best since the bottom was in, because they could really be the leaders going forward. And I'm always looking here in terms of the ones that I'm taking a note of, Titan in software, PLTR in software. So software might be a theme that I'm focused on a little bit more. And that's kind of the overall process that I go through. I'll kind of spacebar all of these, sorting by percent change in 10 day, and then add these to an RS list. Then over here on the right-hand side is the is the same ETF list. So you're looking at the same exact ETFs, but instead of price percent change from the open, I have price percent change on a 20-day basis. And what this basically shows is what are the leading themes in the market. But again, on a 20-day basis, this is basically over the past month, what are the strongest performing themes? And right up here, you've got gold miners. And basically, if you start to see a ETF climbing the ranks again, those have been themes that are acting strong. So if there's a theme and stocks are going to, lead us out of this correction, you'll see the themes from a high level right here on these performance charts. And that's what's awesome about them. All right, how's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another Deepvue tutorial. This is the perfect time to be talking about how to find stocks that are potential leaders coming out of a correction. Right now, if we switch back to the QQQ, and I'm recording this here on Wednesday, we have a potential reversal extension down here, rally back into the moving average, and potentially a higher low and the start of a new rally attempt. We'll see if it actually plays out. If it does, we'll see more higher highs and higher lows as we form up here. We'll reclaim that 21 EMA and start trending above it. But the important thing is where we have the potential for a rally currently. And so what we want to be doing when this occurs is to be keeping an eye out and looking for stocks that are acting better than the market and can potentially lead and really make huge progress for us in our accounts if we do start a tradable rally and continue higher from this point and begin a new uptrend. So that's what this video is all about. How do you find potential leaders in this type of situation? Well, there's going to be a few different ways that I'm going to talk through today. First, we're going to talk about the Deepvue leader screen, how to sort by different data points to identify the strongest stocks and basically the best acting stocks during this correction. They'll discuss a specialist screen from Ameet Rai. They'll discuss the 52-week screen, and then also kind of bring it back and take a step backwards and talk about the overall themes that we're looking for and how to identify the leading themes in the market very easily using the Deepvue performance charts, as well as the theme tracker, which is a little bit more pre-built. So let's go ahead and dive right in. So first things first, with this context, again, we have the potential start of a new rally. We'll see if this holds. If it's going to work, it's going to build out here, reclaim, form a higher high relative to here, start trending above the rising 21 EMA. But if we do roll over, we're just kind of resetting things and again, waiting for that next great setup, where it looks like the market is ready to finally resolve itself. So that is the overall context. And what's really important is we've kind of put in this bottom here about 10 days, 11 days ago, and that's going to be key for some of the data points we're going to use. So first things first, you can navigate to the Deepvue leader screen. This is basically a wide screen that looks for the strongest stocks based on momentum, growth, kind of can slim metrics. So, and I kind of always say this, if you're only going to use one screen in Deepvue and kind of want to save time and just go through, one list of stocks, this is a great screen to start with. And it's kind of how I do my routine every single day. So first things first, here are the key data points we're going to be talking about. First, we've got percent change 10 day. I'll talk about why 10 day in just a second. Then we've got the absolute strength rating on a 1 month basis. So this rates all stocks based on their performance over the past month and gives them a rating, 1 through 99, 99 being the strongest. And then we've also got the industry group here. And it's very easy to add these data points if you haven't already found them. AS rating, just go ahead and search AS, and you can scroll down and go ahead and find them really easily just by searching. Or you can also use the folders here and pick basically your column setup here, and it will auto save automatically. So basically, these are the data points I'll be talking about. I've also got the industry group right here, and this is kind of key to, again, getting that higher level perspective and trying to identify where the puck is going, what overall themes and groups could be leading coming out of a correction. So that's why I've got the industry group data point right here. So with that said, why do I have 10-day % change? Well, if we go back to the QQQ, we've bottomed about 10 days ago, 11 days ago. So what I'm looking for is what have been the strongest stocks since this local bottom. We'll see if it's the absolute bottom, of course, later on. But since this local bottom, what have been the strongest stocks? And to do that, very simply, you want to do % change from that low, which is pretty much 10 days ago. And just an easy sort from highest to lowest allows you to see, what stocks have rallied the strongest since that local bottom right here. And what we're looking for is not just stocks that have rallied, after being very oversold, longer term downtrends. We're looking for stocks that actually have some type of base formation and are holding up well and are kind of in the middle of their bases and not in too much of a longer term downtrend like this one is right now. These could be good traders, but not necessarily this type of stocks we're looking for to make long, week-long, month-long sustainable moves if we do continue with an uptrend. So root holding your all-time highs, that would be one that I'd basically key in on, and I basically go ahead and check it. And this is kind of how you can create a watch list. This is a recent IPO acting really strong. Definitely want to check box that one. TMDX, this isn't a longer term downtrend, but it has a nice bottoming formation. So you kind of see what I'm looking for. I'm looking for at least some type of structure and some type of relative strength since the local bottom in the market. And that's what we're looking for. None of these are these aren't necessarily actionable right now. Some of them will need a new setup, a new pullback, like this one is short-term extended here. You've got a downside reversal today. Maybe you watch for the next pullback to 21 EMA, but you always want to be tracking these stocks that are acting the best since the bottom was in, because they could really be the leaders going forward. TEM, recent IPO, so I kind of prioritize that. Pretty low in its base, but has the potential to make really nice moves. So again, looking for those characteristics of the strongest stocks, and TM kind of fits that bill as one to keep tracking and just keep watching more closely. PLTR, prior leader, acting really well. And if I add a 200-day moving average here, let's go ahead and add that right here. Let's do moving average and add the 200-day here. What I like about this one, and a key point I want to say here, is this held above the 200-day moving average during this correction while the market and many stocks undercut their 200-day moving averages. So that's what I like about this PLTR setup. But, I am, cognizant of the fact that this has come 1,000% over the past 2 years. So we'll see if this ends up leading again, but very, on a short-term basis is acting really nicely. Strong action off lows, pulling back into 21 EMA and popping above it and popping above this local pivot here. So definitely a name I want to keep tracking of. So just kind of going through to show exactly what I'm looking for. Affirm, again, nice bounce off lows, but still below the 200-day moving average and still kind of in a longer term downtrend here. So still has a little bit of work to do. Duolingo, pop into the gap here, pretty close to all-time highs. I'll keep that name on my radar. CVNA, really good for swing traders, pretty volatile, but I'll keep that on my radar as more of a swing trade type name. Needs to calm down a little bit. AMX, really strong off the bottom, but not necessarily a super high growth name, and in a longer term downtrend, I'll skip that one. STNE, powerful off the bottom, but again, kind of more in a longer term downtrend. So these can work, and these could be transitioning more to a longer term uptrend. But for my style, I'm looking for stuff that's holding up a little bit stronger. Currently, XPV, interesting. We'll tag that. ZLab, powerful off these lows. More of a fast mover here. ADR is 7%, but we'll keep track of that one. And I noticed that biotech is up here quite a bit. Grail as well. We'll go ahead and do that. And I skipped over MSTR, but this one is acting really nicely. But again, has a kind of extension here, which has taken some time to build out this base, but it is one I want to keep track of. And I'm always looking here in terms of the ones that I'm keep taking a note of, Titan in software, a PLTR in software. So software might be a theme that I'm focused on a little bit more. And that's kind of the overall process that I go through. I'll kind of spacebar all of these, sorting by percent change in 10 day, and then add these to an RS list by, let's go ahead and actually create one, RS list. And what is today? April 23. And click save. And then you've got an RS list saved for that day. And you can go back in time, maybe a week pass, and see how those stocks are shaping up. If some were extended, have they now built setups? But this just allows you to keep track of relative strength day to day. And what you're looking for is to do this process every single day and see what names are consistently showing up on that list over and over again. And that's going to be the leaders coming out of this correction, and increases the likelihood that those will be the top performing stocks. So in addition to the 10-day percent change, and again, we're doing the 10-day because the QQQ formed a local bottom about 10 days ago. In addition to that 10-day percent change, I also like to just do a 1 month absolute strength rating here. And again, just kind of go through all these. LOAR, nice, pretty close to local highs. We'll add that. CERT, longer term downtrend, but very powerful. Got a nice gap here. We'll actually add that. And again, just doing that same process. A lot of these names are pretty similar. I've noticed DLTR, BJ, those names are acting well. Dollar General, not necessarily meaning that there's a lot of growth names working when these names are working quite well, but just a theme that I'm watching. Also, sorting by this, you can see the miners are dominating this. That's been a theme that's been acting really well. So not only does this help point you towards potential leaders, but it also points you towards existing themes and potential themes going forward as well. And yeah, just basically doing the same exact process and looking for stocks that have some type of formation and are acting quite well. BNTX, whippy trader, but really powerful off those lows. We'll go ahead and add that. And just following that same exact process as I mentioned before. GGAL, nice action, can really trend nicely and undercut and rally the 200-day moving average really nicely, and is now kind of back in the middle of this base and looks decent. So these stocks that I'm flagging don't necessarily need to look perfect right now, especially because we're so close to a potential local bottom in the market. They just have to have shown some strength off the lows and are part of some type of constructive formation, consolidation, whatever you want to call it. So that's kind of what I'm looking for in terms of flagging those names. And then we'll go ahead and add that to that list right there. So the other way, and going to a different screen, we've got this Ameet Rai 62.5 RS days screen. And basically what this is, and you can read the quick blurb on this, based on a study that Rai did, stocks that exhibit RS on 62.5% of the time during corrections often have a big chance of being established leaders going forward. And if you go through here, you see a lot of names that we've already flagged: MSTR, PLTR, CVNA, STNE we looked at. A lot of these same names. Netflix acting really nicely right near local highs, acting really strong. So you start to see similarities and common stocks between these different screens and different ways to look for relative strength. And those are clues to really focus on those names and keep a close eye on them. So basically you do that same process, go through the names and add any additional ones that you want to your relative strength list. Lastly, we've got the 52-week highs list. This basically is a way to look for stocks that are making new highs during this environment. And if you're able to make a new high when the market is well off highs, that is a sign of relative strength. GR&D and software acting really nicely, trending beautifully. Definitely short-term extended, but this would be a name to add to that RS list. So that's kind of the whole process. And just a few different ways to look for relative strength using different screens and different data points as well that can really save you time by not having to go through hundreds and hundreds of stocks, just kind of prioritizing the ones that are acting the best in this environment. So taking a step back, again, I talked about, looking for common industry groups here, but the other way that I'm trying to look for leading themes is with the Deepvue performance charts in the dashboard. So I've gone over to my dashboard module here. I've created this performance chart setup right here. These are basically performance charts. You can always click a new dashboard. Let's just call this test. And to add apps, you either click this or you can always click right here and drag in the performance chart widget here. And then what I basically have done is I've gone and selected my universe instead of the Deepvue universe screen. I go here to Watchlist presets, top traders, and then select my ETF list. And this is basically a list of ETFs that kind of represent different themes in the market. And they allow you to basically track the performance of these different themes on different timeframes. And I like to do percent change from the open as well as on a 20-day basis, and I'll actually show the performance chart that I have set up. So looking at this, on the left-hand side, I have that ETF list, and the data point that is being tracked here is the price percent change from the open. So on a daily basis, what this is showing is after the open, which ETFs performed the best. What were the strongest themes today since the open? And we've got a lot of the miners acting well, a lot of the other names, oil really sold off here. MSOS sold off, Jets sold off. So you kind of see on a day-to-day basis which names acted well from the open, and some days will, different themes will really stand out. Sometimes it'll be a little bit more, nebulous. But the key thing again is to do this process on a daily basis and keep track of, hey, the miners really holding up well. Oh, software is kind of climbing the ranks right here. I'm noticing it being higher. Blockchain acting well or losing less when the overall market is down 5%. Those are the type of things that you want to keep track of, and little clues that if you keep track of it on a daily basis will set you ahead of most people in finding the leading themes and strongest stocks in the market. Then over here on the right-hand side is the is the same ETF list. So you're looking at the same exact ETFs, but instead of price percent change from the open, I have price percent change on a 20-day basis. And what this basically shows is what are the leading themes in the market. And right now it's gold and gold miners and also IBIT, so crypto stocks. Down here, you've got the worst stocks, Jets, OIH, ERX, TNA, and you can hover over these and see exactly what they are. And I'll show a more pre-built way to do that as well. But again, on a 20-day basis, this is basically over the past month, what are the strongest performing themes? And right up here, you've got gold, gold miners. And basically, if you start to see a ETF climbing the ranks again, maybe you've seen it repeatedly up here on a daily view, and then on a 20-day view, you see it climbing the ranks. Like right here, we've got consumer discretionary and medical devices acting well, these two right here. And those have been themes that are acting strong. So if there's a theme and stocks are gonna lead us out of this correction, you'll see the themes from a high level right here on these performance charts, and that's what's awesome about them. And if you don't like having kind of this many themes to track, and you want a little bit more of a simplistic pre-built way to do it, what you can do is click New Dashboard, and we'll just call this Theme Tracker. Click Save. Oh, I already named it that, so let's do Theme Tracker 2. And then what we're going to do instead of the performance charts, we're going to add in the more pre-built Theme Tracker and make this quite big. And basically this does kind of the same thing, but instead of ETFs, we have kind of pre-built different themes here, miners, aerospace, and showing that same thing on a 1-day basis, price percent change from the open. On a 1-week basis, what's acting well, blockchain has really stood out. Then on a 1-month basis, you see again the miners, consumer staples, utilities. So you're noticing those same themes, but this is just a little bit more of a simple way to do it if you want something more pre-built. So again, the performance charts and this way to do it is really powerful and very easy to do. I kind of check this every single day. It's part of my routine, and it basically keeps me on track with what are the strongest themes in the market right now. All right, so that's pretty much it for today's video. Again, we've talked about 3 different screens, the Deepvue leaders, 52-week highs, the 62.5 RS days, which you can find by going over to Screener Presets, Top Traders, and Ameet Rai right here, and how to kind of use that and sort them by these different data points to help you spot the strongest stocks off the lows and the strongest stocks overall in the market during a correction. And the strongest stocks and the stocks that are, forming higher lows as the market forms lower lows, holding above the moving averages, those are the names to be keeping an eye on as potential leaders if we do form a tradable rally. But again, you kind of want to be doing this anytime the market kind of just looks like this, where we're approaching the 21 EMA, where, we popped above it and are trying to hold. Whenever we're in that kind of situation, do this process, do this routine that I went through in this video, and you'll have a great list to watch as potential leaders going forward, and you'll be way ahead of the curve, in front of many different traders who are more defensive in this area and aren't really kind of thinking proactively in terms of spotting the leaders early. This is how the top traders get into a Tesla and Nvidia when they're just taking off, is they've noticed the relative strength throughout a correction, and so they have already that name, they've already learned its character, and that's how they're a step ahead of everybody else. So using this routine, you can be exactly the same way. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, go ahead and leave a like down below, subscribe if you're new to the channel, and I'll see you guys in future videos. Take care.